What's going on, guys? I am doing a little more of these solo videos for a reason. So throughout the 2.5 years or whatever I've been doing the podcast, a lot of videos have been made about things that I've said on my podcast. And I usually just don't entertain them. I'm like, you know what? Stupid. The people who know me, and I'm not going to entertain these things. I'm going to rise above it. But in the last month or so, I've decided to interact. Why not? Things are being said about me. I'm going to make videos to respond to them and set the record straight so that my words aren't twisted or the wrong information is put out. And this one is a perfect example. So today, after getting back from Dubai last week, I've been having trouble getting myself back into the swing of things. And today I opened up YouTube to see that Nick Trigili had put out a video saying that Chris Cormier thought I was racist or I made racist comments or whatever. So I watched it. Nick's video is pretty good. He made some interesting points about what I was saying and did a good job in deciphering the bullshit, but didn't make the ultimate point, which was that Chris was wrong. Now, one of the reasons this surprises me more than anything is because me and Chris are friends, like work friends, as far as I'm concerned, through the league. Chris knows, and through many videos, interviews, magazine interviews that I've done, that his physique was probably my favorite coming up, and that I thought it was the perfect proportions of a bodybuilder and somebody I really admired. So it was strange to me that Chris was mad and didn't just shoot me a text and say, hey, did you say this? But instead went on Dennis's podcast just to say some stuff that wasn't really true. The nice thing was, though, after watching the piece of it, was that Dennis, knowing me for quite a while, basically said to Chris, hey, that doesn't sound right. And also Milos, knowing me for some time, has also said, hey, that must have been taken out of context. Fouad is not racist. Now, one of the things I will say that I'm going to play you the clip of what I said on my podcast so that I can let you guys know what was actually said. And I also just want to play a piece of it really quickly just to kind of give you guys an idea of how things, if you guys don't watch the podcast, this is kind of how things run. So I'm going to give you guys a look at the podcast here. So you're going to hear me say this right here. No, Ben, since you said that, is it because they're black or is it the training style? Because forgive me if this sounds really racist.
Jesus.
So that comment there, forgive me if this sounds racist. Chris took exception to that. He said, if you say that, then some dumb shit's going to come out of your mouth. But what Chris doesn't know, because I'm sure Chris doesn't watch my podcast, or if he does, he probably doesn't watch the whole thing. I say that all the time. And if I don't say it, one of the guests says it. And that's because we like to make fun of politically correct culture. We think it's a fucking joke because we all know none of us are racist. We all know none of us are homophobic. None of us are transphobic, any of the phobics. So we say these things kind of as a joke. And that's why when I said it, everybody kind of laughed because we're like, okay, here we go again. There's going to be some insensitive shit said that might rile some people up. Now, let me grab my headphones just so I can play the rest of the clip so you guys can hear what I said.
But
I know,
for a change.
I know.
You're like, oh, here we go. And then when it stays food, okay, what's he gonna say?
I noticed the white guys are usually the fucking heavy load, heavy lifting kind of guys.
I agree with that.
And the black guys are usually that.
Coleman.
Well, but Ronnie was a high volume. Ronnie was a high volume guy and. So as you guys see right there, Ben called me out because he's like, hey, wait a minute. You're saying black guys aren't strong. What about Ronnie Coleman? And immediately I said, Ronnie Coleman lifted high volume because my intention was to say that the high intensity lifter, meaning low volume, meaning Dorian Yates style, is usually a white guy, or usually the white, in my experience, I can think of the guys that lift with high intensity, low volume are usually white guys. Those are the guys I know, the Ians, the JPs, the Dorian Yates. Like those are the guys that I think of, the Mike Mensers. I can't think of a high intensity, low volume black lifter. Most of those guys are strong, but high volume. And I'm going to go on to say that right here. Heavy load. I'm not saying black guys don't lift heavy. I'm just saying it seems like the black guys are more the high volume lifters. What was the last?
I think you're right.
What was the last high intensity, low volume trainer you could think of that was black? Nobody. I can't think of one. Nobody.
Look, I've seen Kai incline pressing 5 plates. I've
Dude,
seen
Kai used to do a 45-minute mobility work before he even started this workout.
I know.
All right. So those were my comments. And we went on for a little bit longer. Now, a couple things before I play Chris's comments. Number one, I clarified my point in saying that I was talking about high volume versus low volume. And as you saw, the 3 other guys on the podcast couldn't think of a low volume, high intensity black lifter. Now, none of this is carved in stone. It's a 2-hour podcast. We're talking shit. We're just shooting the breeze. And listen, we talk about races in positive and negative ways. And even though that wasn't negative, we're just making an observation. But we've said many times, black guys have beautiful physiques. White guys are usually the thick, grainy skin. The Arab guys usually have great backs. The Asian guys usually have great legs and great calves. Like these are just observations we're making. And if they're insensitive to you and you don't like them, then don't watch the show. Like these are just observations I've come across over 20 years of bodybuilding. And as you saw, the 3 people on, Paul's been watching bodybuilding since the 80s. And he couldn't think of a fucking low volume, high intensity black lifter either. Now, Chris made a comment about Samson and saying that Samson didn't speak up because I'm his boss. Chris, you're sadly mistaken, brother. My employees are not employees. These guys are my friends. They have access to me 24/7. They have my phone number to call, correct me, or make a complaint or something whenever they want to. Samson, by no means, is on that podcast just to be a yes man. He is the first person to say, hey, you're full of shit, because they know they have that rapport with me. So for you to think that Samson just sat there quietly because he was scared is absolutely false. Samson sat there and agreed with me because Samson himself is also a high volume lifter. Samson himself also understood what I was saying in that it wasn't about strength. It was about high volume versus low volume. And when you think of the lifters, Chris Cormier, Johnny Jax, Johnny trained with fucking Branch Warren. That's high volume. Dexter Jackson, Phil Heath, like Sean Roden, you go down the list, Cedric McMillan, go down the list. Those are not low volume, high intensity lifters. So now we're going to play Chris Cormier's bit just so you guys can hear what he had to say. And we'll correct it little by little because he was pretty emphatic that he knew what I was talking about, even though he completely misread what I said. So we're going to go here and let's hear what Chris has to say.
When we're at your best.
Oh, before? Yeah, I would say I was a little bit stronger than average.
Yes. You consider yourself, okay, I can hold my own too, right?
Hell yeah.
I'm listening to Fouad. Someone sent it to me. This fool talking about, he started it off like, I don't want to sound racist. So when everyone says, I don't want to sound racist, you know it's something stupid about to come out of your mouth, no matter.
Chris, I say I don't want to sound racist because I know it's probably going to be insensitive. And we don't give a fuck. The show is about having fun, and the show is about saying things that aren't politically correct because it's not hurtful to nobody. And they're just observations. And that shouldn't hurt your feelings for me to make an observation about the types of training styles that I've witnessed. Let's carry on.
No matter what.
Yeah, real
Don't
stupid.
even-
Wait a minute. Well, okay, go ahead. I'd like to hear. Who are we talking about? You're talking about Fouad?
Fouad, yeah.
What
Yeah,
did
I don't-
what did he say?
He's saying that the Black Bible wasn't strong.
Boom. That's wrong. Chris, you're fundamentally wrong. That is not what I said.
Oh, really?
We only did volume and pump. Yeah.
Really?
Black Bible wasn't strong.
Well,
And I was like, ain't this something?
So they carry on like that for a little while. I'm not going to play the whole clip. He carries on to say that I said they weren't strong. And as I already showed you guys on my podcast, that wasn't the case. But you know what? Let's just play a little bit more of it just for fun.
I can name a lot of bodybuilders that were. No, he just pulled it out of his ass. I don't know. Samson is sitting there, and Samson's like, "What? Like, what are you talking about?"
Actually, Samson agreed with me the minute I said it. He wasn't like, what at all. So I don't know where Chris got that from.
And he was like, "Oh, I'm not talking about you, Samson. You're a freak."
I never even said that. So I'm not sure where he got that from either.
And then I was like, "Damn, Samson, stand up, damn it, stand up,
Yeah.
stand up for us."
What did
There was nothing for Samson to stand up for. It was a clear observation. There was no negativity towards any race or anything else. So there was no need for Samson to stand up, Chris.
what did
I know it's his boss, but I know it's his boss. He can't really say much, but I thought that was some stupid ass shit to say when if
Yeah,
you just
real
look at the
stupid.
history, dog.
Oh.
Look at the real history of the sport. I just don't want nothing.
So
to
who
get out there.
does? So who is he?
I just don't.
Hold on. Who is he comparing with? Who is he comparing these black guys
He, was
with?
just, he said it was only he considered Samson a freak and Ronnie a freak.
So Chris can't even really articulate what the conversation was about. I don't know if he watched one sentence from the conversation or if he actually watched the conversation. But we were comparing to white guys. It wasn't, I didn't pull it out of my ass. We weren't comparing just Samson and Ronnie. We were comparing white training styles to black training styles. And what I said was, and the conversation evolved into why some black guys are having more longevity in the sport than white guys. That's kind of where it came from. And the point was that the black guys are having more longevity in the sport, maybe because they're not doing the high intensity, all out for one set, lift as much as you can type of training. They're doing more pump and volume. Yes, still heavy, but more pump and volume than just straight one heavy set, like the high intensity, low volume stuff that some of the white guys are doing. Now, look, this whole conversation is just a joke. There are white guys that do high volume stuff. I don't know any black guys that do low volume, low volume stuff, but there are guys that train all different sorts of ways, all across races. We're in a 2-hour podcast and we're just making blanket observations. For Chris to get upset at this, and he got it wrong to begin with, but for Chris to get upset at this is really stupid, in my opinion. And I'm not coming on here to defend myself. I said what I said and I stick to it. I can't recall the last high intensity, low volume, black professional bodybuilder. I'm sure there was one. I can't think of one that was at the top. That's all. So I'm not on here to apologize. I'm on here just to say, Chris, shoot me a text, brother. If you have a fucking question about what I said, shoot me a text so I can clarify to you. And then you don't have to go on and say something dumb that isn't true. Well, let's go on here a little bit more what Chris has to say, just in case there's something in there that's makes some sense.
Freak is strong, but nobody else. I was like, wow. I know I did some shit.
Yeah.
I know Dennis. I know you did some shit. I know Kevin LeBron did some shit.
Yeah.
I know Johnny did some shit.
You can look up at the top 100 power lifters in the world, and I'm still ranked in them in deadlift,
Yeah, so
body weight.
Yeah.
bro, he literally said that.
I squat 826.
I'll send it to you, brother.
Did you?
Yeah, send it.
you listen
Send
to-
it.
Around 40 minutes in, yeah.
Oh,
It got
send it.
sent to me because it was like, wasn't you strong, Chris? I said, yeah, I was strong.
Well, I know he's not racist. That's for sure.
Thank you, Dennis.
Okay.
You know, so, I mean-
I just think it was a stupid thing to say. I just don't like when people start saying,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
It is a stupid thing to say, Chris, but I didn't say it. So, you need to get that shit straight. And thank you, Dennis, for telling everybody I'm not racist.
You just say the words like we like.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ask him to come on this old school round table, and then we'll talk.
Dennis, I would be honored to come on your old school roundtable. I have so much respect for Chris. Like I said, he was one of my favorites. I love Milos. Me and you have always gotten along. I've had a mutual respect for each other. I don't know if Johnny will be on because I know Johnny was just your special guest that week. But listen, I'll come on with anybody you want. I have the utmost respect for everybody in this sport. There are only a few people that I've had wrong doings with. But for Chris to say I don't know the history of the sport, look, I'm not like a bodybuilding aficionado. Like, if you talk to, Roman, for example, Roman knows what color posing trunks somebody wore in fucking 1970 at the Olympia. I'm not like that. I'm not a stats guy, but I have the utmost respect for the people that came before me. And I've never badmouthed people from this era or that era unless they disrespected me or one of my friends first. But I've always had that most respect for Chris. I know Chris was a fucking super strong dude. Johnny, total respect for Johnny. I know Johnny was, man, we've talked about Johnny's squats and deadlifts forever. Dennis, I've watched all the Dennis James bench press videos. I've watched the Kevin Levrone videos. Look, this is a stupid conversation. And I really don't have to make this video because I know people that watch my channel know the context of the conversation and what our podcast is about. But like I said, because these videos keep coming up and people keep twisting my words and saying certain things, I felt like, you know what? I need to come on here and correct the record and say what's what and explain myself so that I'm not letting other people speak for me. And that's the whole point of YouTube, right? So, Chris, if you want to come on the podcast, I'd be happy to have you on the podcast. We can discuss it further, or I'd be happy to come on Dennis's podcast if you're on, and we could talk about it further. I just think you got it wrong this time, man. I would never say that black bodybuilders weren't strong. It's kind of silly to think that I would say that. And if anybody did say that, I would be in your corner saying they're fucking stupid. So that's that, boys. That's this video. And until the next one, look out for Bro Chat coming probably Wednesday. And maybe you'll get another video tomorrow of me ranting about somebody or something else. Thank you guys for watching. Check out HOSSTILE.com for all the great merchandise. We have some new drops this week that I know you guys are going to love. Talk to you on the next one.